Hi, BC family. Welcome to your midweek devotion. This week I titled my devotion, I Love You. So I was noticing the other day how often I say I love you to my kids and to my husband. I mean, every time we talk on the phone or they leave the room or I just see them sitting there and you think, oh, I just love you, right? And it can be the littlest thing. Your kid smiles, they do something for you, you just see them in this outfit. I mean, their ever presence just makes you want to say, I love you. And I noticed, or rather I should say, it struck me as I was reading one of my devotions this week, how often do I tell God, I love you, right? And so I started to think, I thank him a lot and I think about him a lot, but I don't actually say the words, I love you, super often. So I pose the same question to you. How often do you tell God you love him with your words? Is it only during your quiet time with him in the mornings? Is it only when you get an answered prayer or that parking spot you were praying for as you were pulling in? Or you're like, God, I love you. That type of way. Is it only reserved for church on Sundays? Right? This is a question to ask ourselves and really look at ourselves with this. So God, our maker, our king, our creator, our guide, our sustainer, our friend, how often do we tell him, I love you? I can tell you this much, not often enough, right? If you think about how many times you tell your kids or your spouse you love them, ask yourself, do I tell God that many times too? Psalms 18:1 says, I love you, O Lord, my strength. This verse is so simple yet so powerful. You can almost feel this moment when the psalmist just stops in the middle of their chaos, in the middle of their busy day, in the middle of getting everything done, and they notice the grass moving and the sky and the clouds, and you just think, I love you, God. I love you, my strength, right? I love thinking about that. So if you compare it to your kids or your spouse or your family members, we just see them sitting in a room and we think, I love you. How often is God always with us, in our midst, in the sky, in our everyday, in the food that we eat? There's so many times that we can just pause and say, God, I love you. Matthew 22:37-38 sets this as a command. It says, Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to them, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. What? That you love God. And I know we can all say, well, I do love him. I thank him. I spend time with him. And all that is true. But the question remains, how often do you tell him with your words? When I started to think, of all the different times, I walk my dog and I see leaves fall, or I see the mountain out, or, the darkness and lightness of the sky, just so many things. God's painting your sunrise and your sunset. You take a bite of delicious food and you think, oh, I love that taste. Those things that God created, he created the food that got on your plate and it's there for you. There's so many times that we can just tell God, I love you, right? He's all around us. He is constantly with us. And we go about our day all day long, and we might thank him for something, but we never say those 3 words to our Abba Father. Could you imagine going throughout your whole day and never telling your spouse you love him, or telling your kids you love him, or your own father, right? Who does so much for you. The most amazing part about God is that we love him because he loved us. It's not our love for him that draws us to him. It's his love for us that draws us to him. 1 John 4:19 says, we love because he first loved us. He loved us first. Always, forever. Even when we don't acknowledge his presence, he still loves us. He's still showing up in our midst. He's still doing stuff for us. Every time we say, I love you, we are reminding our soul of his goodness. Psalms 136, I encourage you to look at it this week, is a great Psalms if you need a refresher on how to give thanks to God. Everything in that is Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. And over, every verse repeats the same lines. His faithfulness is everlasting. Over and over and over, that line is there. When we become more conscious of this, more aware of him, when we say those 3 words over and over throughout our day, and we start to acknowledge him as an actual presence in our life all day long, just like you would your kids or your spouse, then the voices of this world, the chaos that is pulling us this way and that way, and at this time of season, it seems like that happens a lot more often. All of those voices will become less and less as we find ourselves talking to him more, taking more time to be still in his presence and listen to his voice. Because that little pause, I love you, God. Thank you for being my strength. That just pulls us into that moment where we're still in his presence and we listen to his voice. Even if the moment isn't a peaceful one, even if you have chaos going on around you, acknowledging our love for him ushers in that peaceful atmosphere. As I end this Devo, I want you to remember Zephaniah 3:17. I like this verse. The Lord your God is in your midst. He is a warrior who can deliver. He takes great delight in you. He renews you by his love. He shouts for joy over you. I want you to hear those words. God is in your midst right now, wherever you are. He is there. He is a warrior who can deliver. He takes great delight in you. He renews you by his love. He shouts for joy over you. That is what your Abba Father is doing for you. Now, you can take the time today to tell him, God, I love you. So this week, I want you to remember to say those 3 words and to realize how often he is in every single thing that we do, even in the messy pile of clothes I see in my house, even in this fuzzy sweater that gives me great delight just putting it on. God, I love you. Thank you. I hope you have a great week. Bye.